Hello and welcome to this edition of SFG Top Performance Podcast, Feed and Grain. We've got the whole crew back together. It's been a while since all three of us sat down to put together something. Scott and Mike are both here. I'll kick it off with a little bit of grain update. Of course, there's been a lot happening in the last 2 months, really, with grain. We've got a driver that works for us, and his famous saying is, "Holy moly." Well, that kind of holds true right now with the grain prices and how it's been fluctuating day to day. Volatility continues to be the name of the game, and it's just amazing. We've been on that track for well over a year and a half now. We can trace it back to the harvest of 2020 when it really started, and it hasn't slowed down much. So, wheat, corn, beans, crude oil, they're all tied right now to what's going on in the rest of the world. Not a lot of news in this country today, but we've got the war in the Ukraine. That's a major mover in the grain side, particularly wheat and corn to some extent. South America weather, it's starting to play out as far as being the story of the year. Their crops have stabilized, still going to come up short on beans. In some places, very short. Wet weather down there is affecting their ability to get the harvest completed and the beans to market. So that has brought some business back to this country, which has been good for us. We're shipping beans right now and will be in the next couple months that we did not expect to ship. China's been kind of forced to come back to us for some beans, so that's good. With the Ukraine, again, wheat and corn are their two major crops in that country as far as exports. They export 17% of the corn that's exported in the world. They don't raise a huge amount of corn, but they don't use hardly any either. They don't have the livestock infrastructure or other needs. They don't make ethanol, things like that. They export the majority of their corn. And so somebody's got to pick up that amount of corn that they do export, and that'll bring some business back to us. Of course, South America's got their first crop corn. They'll start that harvest soon. And then the safrinha corn is being planted right now. That's the second crop down there. And that corn will come in kind of the same time as our harvest or just a little after. So those are the major movers. Oil, it went over 130 yesterday. First time that's happened since 2008. And it came back down before the day was over. But I think oil will continue to trade, especially if we do ban the Russian imported Russian oil into this country. I think most people feel that's probably going to happen. And with that, other countries will do the same thing. So as that happens, it's pulling the value of ethanol up at the same time, which is good. It needs to stay pace with the corn. So hopefully we can tie those two together in the near term and try to work ourselves out of this. Long term, ethanol has a battle. And you would think right now it'd be really simple to push E15 nationwide and raise the amount of ethanol we're using. But the oil lobby is tremendously strong in Washington, D.C., and they're still working to hold that off, you might say. They still want you to buy oil, buy gasoline, not ethanol. So that's an ongoing situation that we'll continue to battle forever and ever, probably. So the above mentioned items, are driving the markets today. What's going to be the future? What's going to come up next? Well, later this month, the USDA will release their planting intentions report. There's some guesses coming out now. Currently, corn and beans are expected to be less acres for next year than we had last year, and primarily because of the other crops and the value they're bringing. Wheat, cotton, they're both very good returns on those, so we might see a lot of spring wheat and cotton planted down south in the fringe areas that could take acres from both corn and soybeans. If corn wants to maintain their acres, I think we'll We'll need to see a little better new crop price. Right now, it's pretty easy to forego the fertilizer and plant beans. So the farmers need an incentive to buy that $1,500 or $1,600 anhydrous if they haven't put it on yet. So that'll come up right away. The other thing is the weather in this country. We've got a lot of areas that are on the dry side starting this spring. Of course, that can be corrected in a day or two. We all know that, of some rain. But the forecasts are drier than normal. So that may have a bearing as we go forward also. So again, volatility is the name of the game in the corn and bean markets. You got to kind of keep an eye on the price, so to speak. If you got old crop, pretty good prices to be letting some of it go. New crop, there's some opportunities there to lock in some very profitable prices. We don't want to let that all get away from us. With that, I'll turn it over to Scott. He'll kick off the feed department.
All right, thanks, Mark. So I think last week gave everybody a little case of spring fever, but I think this week that's kind of slapped it back out of them again. So the only good thing is winter's getting shorter. News in the feed department is calving and mineral. And we are still having our spring bookings for minerals going on through the month of March. With everything going on in the world right now, like Mark was talking about, all the volatility, not just in the grain market, but the ingredients that goes into all this feed. Pretty much they're just trending upward constantly. There's no sign of the prices going down. So this would be a really good time to lock in some prices for the summer. Having a nice even set of calves to market next winter pays dividends. The use of a breeder mineral is a small fraction of the payback you will get from it. A nice tight calving window produces those nice even sets of calves. Just something to think about. Green grass is getting closer. With that comes thoughts of grass tetany and high mag mineral. Older cows are more susceptible to tetany. Early on, they're producing large amounts of milk, and this causes a high release of magnesium in them. This, combined with their reduced ability to mobilize their bone magnesium, leads to grass tetany. We have a good supply of high mag mineral in place to cover your needs. If you have trouble with consumption of the high mag, which I know some guys do, we also carry a high mag tub. Magnesium has a very bitter taste that most cows don't like, so with the tub you can cover that bitterness up with a little bit of molasses. Makes for better consumption. So give Mike or myself a call about your mineral needs. Like going back to what Mark was talking about with all the volatility, I think it'd be really wise to lock in as much as you can for the summer right now, because undoubtedly prices are only going to get higher. Mike, what you got?
Okay, thanks, Scott. I guess I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about the cattle and the feeder markets and $7 corn. But the reports that we're getting are cow numbers are down, replacement heifers kept back are down. A lot of this is due to the drought areas, wheat pastures. So cow liquidation continues to be on the high end, and replacement heifers continues to be low because they're short of pastures and hay. So feeder calves from 400 to 600 pounds seem to be bringing pretty good money yet, because the farther out futures are hitting some pretty good prices on the board that we haven't seen before, to the tune of next February's up to 147 to 150s and above. So there's some opportunities there, guys. So take a look at that. There is marketing companies we can hook you up with that can help you take some risk insurance or help you understand how to market or cover yourself on these calves. Nobody knows what the weather's going to do this spring and summer, and what's the corn price and commodities going to do, but right now it appears like up or steadily up, along with the ingredient prices. It appears like because of this cattle situation, even with higher prices of corn, and I'll address that in a minute, the cattlemen should have an opportunity to make some good profits for the next year to year and a half. So we got to look at some things. We got the calves coming on the ground and really getting heavier, so we got to take care of those calves, and we got to be feeding creep feed, guys, and I'll go through the economics of that. Every pound that you put on that calf and take the pressure off of mama is dollars and cents today. So let's consider creep feed. And creep feed's a complete pelleted creep feed with quality ingredients so I can get that conversion of 4.5 or 4 to 1. A commodity creep's going to be 8.5 to 10 to 1. So when you start putting economics to that and performance, there is a difference. So just to give you a little bit, a quick example on creep, I just took roughly what creep might be right now, and which comes out to about 18 cents a pound. And if you use a 5 to 1 feed efficiency and look at the extra pounds of gain you're going to get, and the calf market being at $1.80. So right now, after you pay for the creep, there's about an extra $54 a head profit by feeding creep. So I know creeps are higher than normal, but that's kind of beside the point. We got different markets today. So get a hold of us for creep. We'll be having firm prices probably this week, and where we can help you get protected. And we also rent the creep feeders that most of you probably know about, or if you don't, we do on that. So can you feed $7 corn to cattle? Your first reaction is no, let's put it in the semi. But if you're in the cattle feeding business, you can feed cattle. 600-pound cattle at $1.90, and they're even bringing a little less than that. But I took the high side, 600-pounders at $1.90. I sell them close to 1,500 pounds with $7 corn. I figured interest, yardage, death loss, everything you could possibly think of. And my break even on those is $1.34. So right now there's opportunities to get this 145 to 148 on fats, which gives you a profit with this $7 corn of over $200 a head. So there's opportunities here, guys. If I'm backgrounding calves, if I'm paying 160, 165 on 6 weights, you can get good calves for that. Sell them at $8.50 with $7 corn. You're going to feed a lot of high roughage and not much corn. And so my break even at $8.50 is about $1.37 to $1.38. So these numbers work. So number one, I guess the thing I want to say to you is let's get creep feed booked. Let's feed a good creep. There's opportunities on these calves, so let's get every pound that we can. And as Scott said, mineral's going to go up. They said phos is going to go up $150 a ton April 1st. So we can book mineral. We got to get it in April. You got to take it and you got to pay for it, but you're going to save anywhere, depends on the phos level and minerals. You're going to save anywhere from 20 to maybe up to $40 a ton on minerals. So it justifies buying it now. So anyway, don't forget, guys, we got the colostrum and we got the scour tube. So get them at home. They're going to get sick after hours. It never fails, and on the weekend. So we appreciate your business. Call us with any questions, and we'd be glad to talk to you about figuring feed costs and getting these cattle positioned and get yourself covered. Okay? Thank you.
Well, that wraps up today's edition of Top Performance Podcast, Feed and Grain. We remind you to check in on our website frequently. We post grain bids there every day for all 7 of our grain locations. Give us a call if we can help you in either the grain or the feed side. We're always glad to talk to people and find a solution. Thank you for tuning in.